What is going on? What is going on? I'm Brian Knight. I am not Bobby Durkins, at least not right here. Big news coming out of Clemson and big news coming out of Athens, Georgia. But basically, someone leaving the Clemson community and going to Athens, Georgia. Brandon Streeter, former Clemson offensive coordinator, former Clemson player, quarterback from the late 90s, is now joining the Georgia Bulldog staff as an analyst. All right, I'm going to dive into this in just a second. Hey, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button if you want to. Hit the thumbs up if you like. That's great. It helps the channel. So thanks for being here. So my good friend Parker Henderson, one of the Henderson sisters, as I like to call them, for those of you who don't know, Chase and Parker are brothers, and they've been great supporters of Bobby and not Bobby Durkins. So he texts me, and right now he's in the chat right now. Howdy, this is not Parker Henderson. Hey, could it be his wife on here? I don't know. Not part. Maybe he's just playing along with the not Bobby Durkins. But he sent me a text today, and he was like, "Hey, there's some interesting news that came up that Brandon Streeter has joined the Georgia Bulldogs staff as an analyst." And so I trust him. I was working. I was like, dude, thanks for the heads up. He was like, you ought to do a video on this. And I was like, if I get a chance, I'm definitely doing a video on it. Fortunately, I got a chance. And so here's an interesting news. Okay, so track with me here. The analyst for the Georgia Bulldogs, this season that just finished up, won a national championship, was Mike Bobo, former Georgia offensive coordinator from 07 to 14. Former Georgia quarterback, Mike Bobo. He in 2021, he was the offensive coordinator for the South Carolina Gamecocks for one season. You really can't say much there about him there because it was that was just a mess. But anyway, so now Brandon Streeter is going to fill his position because Mike Bobo's taken over as the OC. There's different feelings that the Georgia Bulldog family has about this. There are the people who believes that just because Georgia recruits well, just because Georgia's won 2 national championships in a row, that Kirby can do no wrong. They literally believe that you could get Steve Urkel. There's a 90s reference for some of you. Steve Urkel to be the offensive coordinator for Georgia, and it wouldn't matter. They could get Ted Lasso to be the offensive coordinator for Georgia, and it wouldn't matter. They could get one of Dolly Parton's wigs to be the offensive coordinator for Georgia, and Georgia would still win because it wasn't special what Todd Monken did. Todd Monken was not special. Now, of course, you and I, if you don't think with the crust around your rectum, you know that's a lie. You know that Todd Monken was the magic behind Georgia. You understand that Todd Monken is the reason that Georgia looked really, really good. He's the reason that Stetson Bennett went from a walk-on who walked on, left, went somewhere else, came back, listen to me, came back, and there was Georgia fans, especially a very famous Georgia fan, who said that he would rather have a wastebasket as the quarterback than Stetson Bennett. Of course, Stetson Bennett did something that nobody has been able to do since, I don't even know if Reagan was in office yet, that he won a national championship, 2 of them. Todd Monken was there, folks. Todd Monken was the brains behind this. But according to some Georgia fans, Georgia's just so great and Kirby can do no wrong that you literally could put one of my toenail clippings right now, one of my toenail clippings, as extravagant as it may be, in an offensive coordinator, and Georgia will three-peat. Okay. Now, I'm not taking a shot towards Mike Bobo and calling him Steve Urkel. I'm taking a shot at the mindset that believes that coaching does not matter. That as long as you've got the head man, whoever's under him, it doesn't matter. Clemson fans, how has that worked out for us over the past 4 years? It has not worked out well for us, if we're honest. There's some people who still muttering all in under their breath, but they realize that some really bad things went on at Clemson, some poor hires, and Dabo Swinney, a man with 2 national championships under his belt, he had to accept that you just can't put anybody in at any coaching position. Now, getting back to Brandon Streeter going to Georgia, what do I think about it? I think it's good for him professionally. I really, really do. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, I know that he coached at Richmond before he came to Clemson. You know, he come back to Clemson. Obviously, he was a quarterback for Clemson. Very dark period at Clemson in the late '90s. This was the Tommy West years when they won. They were 3-8, and that was just very, very questionable. Brandon Streeter was the quarter. He was on the roster at that time. The very next season, Tommy Bowden comes in, who was a starting quarterback. Brandon Streeter did very, very well, especially with what he had to work with. And so Streeter, there's a lot of respect to be given to him, but he has been majorly impacted by Clemson. But sometimes it's good to leave home. And I know he was coaching at Liberty. Sometimes it is good to leave home and go somewhere else where they do things different. You're around different coaches. You're around a different mindset. I really hate talking about culture. I think that has been so hijacked and it's so cliche. It's so cheesy now. Our culture here. I mean, excuse me. When I was looking for a job, and I was, back last year. And I was looking, through various, job boards and stuff. It was barf-worthy to hear people talk about culture because it is cliche. It's silly. Anywhere you go in the country, they're always going to talk about culture. I don't care if they hadn't or hadn't won a ball game in years. I don't care if they're a national championship contender. They're always going to talk about culture, 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 culture. And I get it, but it is so barf-worthy. So I would like to maybe be more specific. I think it is good for Streeter to get out of Clemson, South Carolina, to get around a program who does things differently, a coach who coaches differently, a coach who probably would maybe chew him out, maybe more than Sweeney would. Maybe it's good for him to be around just somewhere different. I think that the job was too big for Streeter right off the bat. Now, of course, if they offered me the job to be the offensive coordinator, I'm saying yes, especially with the money. I'm saying yes. And especially after I see all the idiots out there who are calling plays, they have no clue what they're doing. They're totally lost. I would not feel bad. Someone's giving me a playbook and saying, hey, do your thing. But there's a few people that's got in here, and I'm going to speak to you in a second and answer a few comments. Any other comments or questions, anything sports related, hopefully, please put them in here. If you need me to look at a burr on your foot, I'm not going to do that. If you want me to comment on anything political, though I have very deep opinions, I'd rather stay away from that. But I think it's going to be very good for him to get out of Clemson and to go somewhere else and hopefully challenge him and maybe get him to that next level that he just really wasn't at this point. So one thing that I see with a lot of offensive coordinators is they believe that quantity is better than quality, meaning we need to have 100 plays in the playbook for this one game, and maybe you don't. Maybe you need to focus on plays that's actually going to be quite useful against the team you're playing. Let's just say you're a really good passing team, but you do have a good running game. Well, let's just say the other team is really good at stopping the pass, but they're horrible at stopping the run. I get the mindset, well, we're just going to do what we do and make them stop us. Well, they're really good at defending the pass. You might want to run the ball, especially if you have that option. Remember, the goal is not the process. The goal is the goal. It is to win. So people don't care if you go out there and rush for 300 yards. You lose the ball game. Well, or in this case, pass for 500 yards, but you lose the ball game because you're really good at passing. They're good at stopping the pass, but you or maybe you go out there. That's totally, totally ridiculous. Anyway, um, it you cannot go out there and there's nothing wrong with a team. This is what I'm trying to say. It's nothing wrong with a team saying, hey, they're really good at stopping the pass, but we can run the ball. We're going to run it. We normally like to throw heavy, but we can win this game. We can actually dominate this game just by running the ball. That is what a proper adjustment is. You're being paid to make the play calls, to not fit your system, but to win the game at hand. And that's, I think, too many times sitting and watching, like College Game Day on ESPN, or watching some of these analysts, watching especially former football coaches who a lot of them were fired for not being very good. And they're sitting there talking about, you've got to run your game plan, says the guy who was fired. No, you've got, if you're playing against a team who cannot stop the run, but they're good at stopping the pass, and you like to pass, but you have a decent running game, win the ball game, folks. Win the flipping ball game. That's your, and I think that's what happens with a lot of these coaches is they don't remember that the goal is to win first, and the process supposed to support the goal. And too many of those guys, they get caught up in their own head, and a lot of times their own pride and arrogance, and they lose, and then they get fired. So maybe for him, and I didn't mean to go on a tangent, and I'm not saying anything towards his pride or arrogance or whatever. I know nothing about Brandon Strick. I'm just saying I think this is really, really good for him to get out of Clemson, South Carolina, go somewhere else, somewhere competitive that is going to challenge him. So let's see. So we have Parker Henderson. Clemson did all those things. Wait long enough, things fall apart. Welcome back to reality, Georgia. I mean, Clemson was on top of the world just a couple of blinks ago. I mean, they were on top of the world. And you just can't hire anyone. And you also can't lose certain coaches, no matter who supposedly is calling the plays. You know, I've told you this over and over. I know someone who, they didn't come out and even say that they know that I have a channel. And they wasn't being rude or anything. It was just their opinion. That's fine. They can have their opinion. But I can tell you that they had to know that I have a channel. I know they do because they're massive, massive, massive Clemson fans. So they had to see it. And we were sitting alone, just kind of talking, and they were talking Clemson football, and everything was going pretty, pretty good. And just out of nowhere, it was like, well, I know people like to rant about losing Jeff Scott, but Tony was the one who called the play. So I'm sick and tired of hearing people talk about losing Jeff Scott. And that was one of the things that I talked about all the time. So it was kind of given away that he had at least watched one of my videos. Well, history's telling us that losing Jeff Scott was a big deal. I don't care, and I know I'm being sarcastic here, but I'm saying I don't care if Jeff Scott was reading each individual offensive player some type of Dr. Seuss book, inspirational book. I don't know. But whatever he did, I don't know if he was putting cocaine on top of the donuts they ate in the morning. Something that Jeff Scott did when he was gone, it was no longer there. That whatever that magic was, it no longer was there. And we saw it and we knew it, folks. Okay? We knew it, we saw it, we heard it, we felt it, blah. It's done. And so coaching matters. It really, really does matter. And I think Sweeney has learned that. Garrett Riley, the big question for me, and I've said this, I think that the offense is going to look much better. I want to see them explosive. I want to see them powerful. He said he wanted to be powerful and explosive. A team that is a championship contender on offense has to be explosive and powerful. Has to be both. You just can't be explosive. You have to be powerful. That when it comes time to dominate the person in front of you, that you can do it. That's the difference. I'm just telling you. That is the difference. Going to go through and answer a few more things. Mark Bishop, did I do that? I tell you this, I've been watching, which a couple of years ago, we introduced, me and my wife introduced our kids to Family Matters. And yeah, Steve Urkel made the show. Had he never been on there, the show would have been over. But you have to get into late season 1 for him to start coming on more and more. And then season 2, he takes over. Also, other people that were fantastic that eventually you started seeing them phase out. Waldo, Geraldo, Faldo, hilarious. Holy crap. You know, Eddie would say something to you about cool. It was COO. It was not COOL. Cool. Love that. Hilarious. Can't forget Lieutenant Murtaugh. Absolutely hilarious. It's yeah, it's great. Derek Green says, I believe Muschamp and Bobo were both analysts. They were. You're right. And folks, let me tell you this. These guys are literally in a profession that I guarantee you, I haven't looked at the contract. I'm still quite certain that South Carolina is still paying Will Muschamp. Am I correct? Someone give me those details. I guarantee you they're just finished paying him. I mean, he's rich many times over because of college football. And so it's, you know, we talk about these guys and you can put them down all you want to. And you can talk about them switching from team to team to team to team. They are making outrageous money just jumping from team to team to team. It's nuts. Parker, you said Clemson ran 3 to 4 plays under Streeter. The sideline was getting tired. Yeah, it was boring. You could see it. You could absolutely see it. I don't care if they came into a game with 80 plays. I was at several games, and I know you watched. We both watched all the games. I know Chase was at the majority of the home games, if not all of them. We all watched a lot of these games. If that was 80 plays, Jesus help me. Yes, Huffer Billy, Paul, you are not passing out cold. Yes, Brandon Streeter is going to Georgia. Ernest Baker says, what up, Bobby? Or not Bobby. Yeah, what's up to you, man? Huffer Billy says, let's go, Brandon. Yeah, that really landed well on that one. Let's see what else. Some guy named something. Well, he's their problem now. Yeah. I think that once again, you can't blame someone who's going to take that money. You can't do it. You're not going to blame someone for taking that money. Yeah, I mean, right at $1 million at what, $925 a year. Okay. They gave him a shot. It was not, he was not ready for that. So, but he still walks away with tons of money, and he'll be an analyst for what, 1 year maybe? And then he'll go take a job somewhere else, making more money than most people you'll meet. I mean, outrageously more than them. So he wins. Oh, let's see. Parker said, hey, Riley has 5 stars and 4 stars across the board to work with. If he can do what he did, Clemson, just imagine what he can do at Clemson. If he could do that at TCU, what can he do at Clemson? I agree with you. I mean, the thing is, now I'm going to say something that is sacrilege to some Clemson fans. And once again, I'm not here to just I'm not here to just say stupid stuff, but one thing come along with my channel is with the criticism that I do receive. At least I can say how I actually feel. Chad Morris was a great stepping stone to getting Clemson where they needed to be. That was a fantastic hire at the time. But if Chad Morris, even at that time, his ability, you moved it today, you would win games and it would look better than what we did. But let me tell you this, when Chad Morris got in most big games, I didn't say all. I know we have the LSU 4th and 16 you want to talk about. I know we have the win against Ohio State in the Orange Bowl, the first time we won the Orange Bowl since, 81 national championship. But I'm going to be very, very clear with you that the majority of the big games that Chad Morris coached in, he got out-coached. When he played against a team who had really good defensive talent and the guy who was calling the defensive plays on the sideline was really good, he got out-coached. And you have to remember that LSU team that Clemson beat in the Peach Bowl, you want to know how underperforming that team was? They had Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. on the same team, and they were in the flipping Peach Bowl. Okay? That tells you how there was NFL talent everywhere on the LSU team, and Les Miles in his team, his coaching staff, majorly underperformed. So poor coaching there. So I'm excuse me. I want to be very, very careful to give respect that Chad Morris did bring something, electricity to Clemson. But let me tell you this, when the times got tough, he was playing against teams who had a lot of talent and they knew how to coach. He got out-coached. And that's it. Oh, let's see. Dennis Hollifield. Scott's back, right? I know there was some type of announcement made, but I haven't been hearing anything about him. So I think it's very odd that Scott would be in Clemson, but you really hear nothing about him anymore. It doesn't make sense. Let's see. B-Bean, what did not Bobby do with Bobby Durkins? I've been getting that question a lot. Let me tell you this. I don't know what's going on with Bobby. But if Bobby's hiding, he ain't hiding. If he's gone out into the wilderness, we all better be worried. Rest Joe Biden says, yes, they're still paying. They're still paying Will Muschamp. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if they're still paying Will Muschamp. And let me tell you this. That's how a lot of these coaches, they go and they know once they get in to a certain level of football, they are going to have to get caught doing something really bad. And even then they might get out of it. I mean, you got to think Bobby Petrino, with everything that has went on with him, he is now the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. Can you imagine how much money they're paying him to be the offensive coordinator? In fact, I'm going to look that up live, folks. I mean, that's just it. Bobby Petrino. Let me see. Bobby Petrino, Texas A&M salary. Supposedly $1 million a year. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Over $1 million a year, folks. So Petrino, first of all, is a fantastic football coach. Talking about X's and O's, okay? But the off the field issues and the things he liked to do in his spare time was, I mean, it killed the guy's legacy. He left Louisville, where he did fantastic at. He went to the Atlanta Falcons, We know how that went. Can't blame. And I would tell you this: I give grace to guys when they go to the NFL because to me, the NFL, I don't know how they even how do they even coach that? I mean, how do you look at someone who, between doing social justice warrior stuff, claiming they're oppressed and they're making tons of money and holding their middle finger up to, I don't know, their adoptive parents and whining about play calling? How do you get them to do anything, especially when they all make more money than you? I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me. So I won't pick at Petrino for not doing well in the NFL because, well, I don't know how they do it. But then he comes back to Louisville. He had that incredible run with Lamar Jackson. And then, other things happen. He's gone. I know. Well, he didn't go back to Louisville. He went back to Arkansas. He went to Arkansas and got fired. Then he went to Western Kentucky. That's right. That's right. And yeah. So it's just, but I'm telling you, once you get into these circles, there are tons of money to be made. Tons of money to be made. It does not matter if you're winning championships. Tons of money to be made. It's absolutely crazy. I have someone in here who is posing as the Bobby Durkins with a misspelled Durkins, Durkens. Says, "Hi, Bobby. Hi to you, Bobby." It's kind of funny. I know. So let's see. Ernest Baker, can't wait to see what our offense does this season. Can't be much worse or stale. I mean, no. No. And can you imagine going to an offensive coordinator and saying, "Hey, let me tell you who you get to have as your quarterback, Cade Klubnik. Oh, and your running back is Will Shipley. And then you got Phil Maffa. You've got Bo Collins throw to. You got Jake Brenningstool. All right. I know we have to protect the quarterback. That's going to have to be addressed, folks. Everybody and their brother's talking about, oh man, we had so many starts on the offensive line. I was there. I said this last night. I've said this other times. I'm going to say it again. I was at the Furman game this year. Clemson played Furman. For those of you who don't know, they're FCS school, about 35, 40 minutes away from Clemson in Greenville, technically Travelers Rest, South Carolina. And that little FCS school, their defensive line gave Clemson's offensive line fits. And that's when I knew we've got major problems. No, I knew it before then, but any hope that maybe they got better, it didn't matter if those guys had 17 years of starts across the front line. They got to fix that. But any offensive coordinator would love to have Cade Klubnik, Shipley, Maffa, Brenningstool, Bo Collins, Antonio Williams. We will see. We will see. Let me see. All right, a few more, and then I'm going to get out of here. The Bobby Durkin says, I have to wait 14 days to change it where it's spelled. Yeah, once you misspell something, my friend, they make you pay for it for quite a while. Lord. A few people talking about the bubble screen. Big Red ask, Streeter Jordan, does this really help the Bulldogs? No, it helps him. It helps him. But Kirby will find out intricate details about Clemson football that he would like to know. If there's any of you ever out there, there's any of you out there who thinks that some of these coaches hire these coaches from other schools just for their expertise or just to fill a position. No, they're picking their brains. What went on at Clemson? They will get chummy with each other. They'll become buddies, and details will spill, whether it's to Kirby directly or someone else. Trust me, that happens. James Thompson says Georgia will be running a lot of bubble screens now. He's not calling plays, but I know exactly what you're saying. Big Red says, could Nick Harbor at South Carolina be a version of Mike Williams at Clemson? Possibly. John Smith, hopefully they let Scott call the plays. Once again, I've heard Scott's joining. All us Clemson fans was happy. I'm hearing nothing about Scott right now, which is odd. Maybe I'm not paying attention. Jeff Scott is. Let me see. Parker said a Streeter is a dog in the red zone and a puppy in the end zone. We saw some interesting play calls. I mean, I want you to think back to this. Pete Carroll with Seattle Seahawks. When was that? 10 years ago? 8 years ago? Something like that? He has Marshawn Lynch as his running back. And all he has to do is hand it off to best running back in the league and one of the best running backs probably playing the past 20 years. And they're going to have another Super Bowl. What does he do? He calls a passing play. Throws an interception to a guy out of West Alabama. And it just shows you right there, it's crazy. Big Red asked, did Bear Bryant's family member go to Clemson via the transfer portal? Yes. It really irritated a lot of Clemson fans. I'm not saying this towards this young man, but Sweeney went to the transfer portal for this guy. And then a lot of Sweeney's supporters came back and told me what an idiot I was, that there was no room on the roster for Clemson to go pick up a player where they maybe need a player, and basically try to pick me apart there. But they did have enough space for one person, and that person, no offense to him, is going to be a GA in football pads. So it doesn't make sense, but Dabo runs Clemson, and I think he's having to learn a lot right now in the new wave of things, and I think having to let Streeter go was one thing that he had to learn with his coaching hires, and I think it's kind of like Coach K when the whole NBA 1 year and done thing, you had to be away from the game, and some players like Brandon Anderson, went to like Israel and played 1 year to fulfill. Hey, I was away from the game 1 year. That's what you said, and actually fulfilled it. But Coach K didn't want to have players come play for 1 year and leave. He was trying to do like a contract thing, or when you come here, you're going to play for X amount of years. And guess what? Coach K finally had to accept that he was losing players left and right because his way of doing things had changed. Or let me rephrase this. The way he was doing things versus the way others was doing things, and the new tide of basketball, whether you like it or not, had changed greatly. And now he was, he was losing because of it. He was losing players because of it, major players. And, if he would have stuck with that mindset, he would have never got Zion Williamson. He would have never got a lot of the players who's come and played for him. Ranchero, that was there 1 year and left. And I think that's a cat's name from a few years back. And these coaches, they have to learn that they either have to change with the times, or else the times actually kind of changes their success and their ability. Let's see what else is in here. Let's go through here a few more. Billy Paul, offensive line requires serious attention. Use transfer. John Smith says use transfer portal for offensive linemen. That would have been great. Whatever happened to Tristan Lee? I mean, I'm here. I've heard about Tristan Lee. When Tristan Lee signed, it was a big deal. And what's that other guy's name? Forgive me, I'm gonna butcher his last name. Lincecum or something like that. I mean, these guys were big deals coming out of high school. Are we just not developing O linemen anymore? I think Richardson is running the offensive line. Am I right? Is he running the offensive line now? Let me see. Y'all forgive me because sometimes I just don't keep up with all positions coaches. Let me see. Thomas Austin. That's it. Thomas Austin. Yeah. Thomas Austin is the offensive lineman. Is the offensive line coach. And I think he's been, what, 1 or 2 years? Yeah. So you've got to give him some grace, give him some time to get in there and do his thing. At the same time, you're wasting eligibility of guys like Cade Klubnik and Will Shipley. And you don't want to become a program kind of like Florida to where you think you can just hire anybody because you've got all this talent and you forget that you have to develop that talent and you're wasting talent, you know. Yeah, year two. Let's see. A couple more. I'm definitely getting out of here. Jeff Scott is the Dabo Whisperer. Yes. John Smith, do you think Notre Dame is our toughest matchup this year? I really don't know at this point. I need to dive in a little more Notre Dame. It is, to me, it's really, really telling. To me, it's really odd there in what's going on in South Bend. Marcus Freeman comes on 1 year as a defensive coordinator. Brian Kelly leaves after being there forever, and he's made the head coach. Tommy Rees calls for 1 year. Tommy Rees leaves, goes to Alabama. For those of you who kind of don't know this, or maybe you really don't care, Tommy Rees was a quarterback at Notre Dame not too terribly long ago. And then he was offensive coordinator there. Now, has he become more of a hot commodity as a coordinator? Yes, absolutely. But that he would leave and go to Alabama to take the very same role. He's not going to take he's not going to take a head coaching job somewhere. He's leaving to go call the same position or the same role, fulfill the same role as he was at his alma mater. So kind of makes you wonder. I know they got Sam Hartman coming in, but have their quarterback, what's the guy's name? He was hurt last year, and then he came in against South Carolina in the Gator Bowl. Buchner. I want to say it's Buchner. Because Drew Pine played quarterback for them the majority of the season after he got hurt. Either way, they lose Michael Mayer, and it's going to be really interesting. Something's odd going on at Notre Dame, but Notre Dame will be a tough game. But Florida State, I know that they've got all these players from the transfer portal. I know that they've got all of these players that, in recruiting, and everybody's a lot fired up about them. But so we have to take them serious. It's like our 4th game in the season that we play them. It will be at Death Valley, which will be a big deal. But excuse me. But the fact is, we've seen schools who brought in some really good talent from the transfer portal, and they did good, but they didn't do as great as everybody thought they were going to do. And it's really interesting. We'll see. Linthicum. Yeah, I mean, that guy was a big recruit coming out of high school. I mean, what's going on there? Duke could be our hardest game at this point. We haven't seen the products yet. I don't think Duke is going to be an easy game. Yeah. Jeremy Child says this season will depend upon our receivers. Our receivers got to step it up. And I said last night, I'll say it tonight. This time next year, we may be talking about a new wide receivers coach if that doesn't happen. Because I've said this, and I've had some people talk about, well, you got to understand, our wide receivers have been bad. Our wide receivers has been, terrible, and almost like they were recruiting bad. Well, if Clemson was recruiting bad, so was Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama, and Tennessee, and 50 other schools that wanted them. They wanted the same guys. And by the law of numbers, Yeah, you're going to have some guys that's not going to pan out that are 4 and 5 stars. Also, by the law of numbers, the majority of your 4 and 5 stars, they will pan out. That's why Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State are consistently in the mix for the serious mix for the national championship. So, what does that tell you? Well, then you have to start using your thinking brain, as I like to call it, and be logical. Logically, you have to come to the realization of this. It's this thing. Maybe you're not developing the wide receivers. Maybe, just maybe, the offensive play calls is not giving them a chance to be explosive enough. I know. It's a little too logical. Lord. James Thompson says both were 5 stars and have yet to play. Yeah, from what I can remember, they've seen very little action. Very little action, if any. Parker says he's going to be at the Florida State game. Of course he will be. Still Gamble says you need to be able to hold up on defense to beat Georgia. If we had anything that resembled an offense in 2021, we would have won that game. I know Georgia fans doesn't like it. Georgia's won 2 national championships. It's in the ink. It's in the books. The ink is dried. Is what I mean. The 2 national championships have had incredible success. If is a massive word because it changes everything. But if Clemson would have had just a solid offense in that first game of the year, 2021, yeah, Georgia wouldn't have won that ball game. Their offense couldn't get them out of a wet paper sack that game. Let me see. Georgia Clemson game was so weird. DJ could win that game. Receivers coach has the hairy eyeball on him right now. I'll guarantee you that Garrett Riley is watching him. Wide receivers will be fine. No need to panic. I'm not worried. Still gamble with their ability. I'm not worried with their ability at all. I'm questioning the coaching. I'm questioning the preparation. And I think Garrett Riley, if he starts calling plays, it's going to give them explosive opportunities. I think you might see some people rise to the occasion to say, finally, I get the chance. But you might actually see a few people who maybe they have poor technique. Maybe they were not prepared well. Could be wrong. Could totally be wrong. That's when he's going to have a meeting with his wide receivers coach. I don't know. I don't know. There's too many things to kind of iron out right now. So I want to be easy on Grisham. Grisham's been successful. Grisham is making way more money than all of us. And I know I bring that up. Some you're like, is money everything to you? No, it's not everything to me. It's the only reason I go to work. That's the only reason you're supposed to go to work unless you have like some type of higher calling. You know, maybe if you truly know that God has called you to be a police officer or to be a pastor, you know, that's fantastic. Other than that, or maybe a doctor, you know, but at the end of the day, guess what? You go to work for money and that's it. And these guys are coaching a flipping game. Yes, it may be hard, but they are being paid unbelievable money to coach a flipping game. So Tyler's already won. He's already won. Played in the pros. He's made his money. So I'm just saying that right now, that's where you would have to look at and go, has this been, Tyler, was it given the play calls to give these wide receivers the ability to show off what he has produced? Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true, folks. Maybe we need to consider that and apologize to him. Star rankings without fitting the system is counterproductive. You're right, Big Red. DJ, I believe DJ is going to do fantastic at Oregon State. I really do. Unless something crazy happens, he has a really good coach out there that's going to develop him. A former quarterback at Oregon State who did great at Oregon State, who did a fantastic job with Oregon State this year. How many times did I say Oregon State there? I think DJ is going to do fantastic. I would not be shocked if the guy came out and just lit it up. You have to recruit for your system. Don't take a guy who's playing quarterback for Navy or Army and put them in a passing in a pass-heavy offense and then get mad at that player that they didn't fulfill a role that they've never fulfilled. You recruited poorly. I don't care what their rating was. And I agree with you 100% there. Garrett has fire, so I hope he does make a difference on wide receivers and offensive line. Yeah, I hope so too. The guys on offense already sound way more enthusiastic talking about the offensive than they did with Streeter. I think our offense will be explosive this year. Once again, I believe that. I could definitely see that. Power. We need power. Great Clemson teams had power. The great Clemson teams of 16 and 18 had power. And the 15 team was amazing. The 15 team was a team had never won a national championship, had Deshaun Watson as a sophomore, and it took all-world players, a ton of them from Alabama, to beat Clemson by, 5 points? Yeah. They still won. They still got in the national championship. That's great for Alabama. If I'm a Bama fan, I'm going to talk trash there. We're talking about 5 points. 5 points. And it took all-world players to do that. Jeremy Child says, I just hope we make the simple plays actually look easy this year. Amen. There was a couple of times this year, they were lined up shotgun formation on like the 2-yard line or 1-yard line. Like, what are you doing? It's be different. We had an anemic team. We had an anemic running back. We had Pee Wee Herman for a running back. It's just, I don't know. 2016 team will forever be my favorite team, Still Gamble says. That was a special team because it and the 18 team was two different teams. Obviously, you did have some players that was still on it, but yeah. I think the 8, man, I don't know. I like both of them. It was just great to see that sheer dominance that just the 18 team had. That was just once they got past the whole quarterback controversy, they got past the Syracuse game, it was lights out from there. I don't know what happened, but they were beating people into the ground. It was fun when they got into the ACC championship. It was like they were murdering people. We have an SEC dog in here, top of the evening. Yes, top of the evening. Yes, and I'm about to get off of here, SEC dog. We're talking about your boys hiring Streeter as an analyst, which just means he'll be coaching some position next year for either y'all's team or some other team. Yeah, I don't know. But all right, listen, everyone. I've been on here much longer. I always do this much longer than what I anticipated. But I just wanted to do a video on this. Thanks to Parker Henderson for bringing this up. And let me know about this and getting to do the video. If you're new here, subscribe. If you don't, I can't make you. Hit thumbs up if you will. I do appreciate you joining me. I'm not Bobby Durkins, at least not right now. I'm Brian Knight, and thank you for joining me on the Not Bobby Durkins channel. I'll catch you next time.